And hello, everyone, and welcome back for another episode of the Endless Spiral podcast. You're all very welcome. I am, as always, your host, Keith Russell. This is, in fact, the last episode of Series 2, but we will be back with Series 3 very soon. I'm actually recording the first episode of Series 3 next week. On this particular episode, I am joined by Adrian Hart. Adrian is a newly recovering alcoholic who is currently in the process of getting certified as a fitness and personal trainer, and also certified in managing people's mental health in adults. Adrian has been quite open about his alcoholism and his mental health on his social media. So I'm delighted that he's joining us today to tell us all about his own personal story. Adrian, how's it going? How are you?
Hi, Pete. Nice one. Yeah, it's all good. It's going well.
Good.
Thanks for having me on here.
You're very welcome. You're
For that
very welcome.
lovely intro there as well.
I
You have me
know. I know.
sounding great.
Well, you wrote it.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. You see, these are all Hollywood secrets that you're supposed to keep to yourself.
We'll edit that bit out afterwards. It'll be grand. So,
God.
Adrian, don't worry, we won't keep this too long, and we won't make it too stressful for you. But like I said, you've been quite open on your social media about your kind of battles with alcoholism and your mental health. But for anyone who isn't following you on Instagram or isn't maybe too familiar about you or your story, do you want to kind of just give people a little bit of a backstory on yourself?
Yeah. So, as you said, my name is Adrian. I am an alcoholic. Gotten quite used to saying that now with the meetings and whatnot. But I am newly recovering again into my alcohol-free journey, I suppose. I am 3 months. I'm almost 100 days actually. I'm 99 days today. I'm 100 days tomorrow. And I am putting this out there now to keep myself more accountable, to let a lot more people know, because I have tried to get sober in the past, and I find it very, very difficult when there isn't a big knowledge from your friends and family, because you can easily slip back into things. Like in previous times I've tried to get sober, I've pretty much just been waiting for the excuse, waiting for the one person that's holding me accountable just to say, oh, you've done very well. What difference does one drink make, or whatever it is like that? And I would just be happy enough to go with that.
All right.
And it would just spiral again. It would okay, fair enough. I've had one or two drinks, but then the excuses go on. I might as well have another couple. And there's always, I remember the first week I stopped drinking this time, I sat down and thought about it, and there was three different times that week that I could have justified drinking. I think there was a new job gotten in the house that I was in. There was a certificate was gotten. There was Father's Day, I think, was on then as well. And it was just, there's always going to be a reason. So for anybody that would be wanting to stop and would always think, oh, I can't because, say, Keith's birthday is next week, there's always going to be another birthday. There's always going to be, Christmas or New Year's, or, it just has to be started for yourselves.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I've starting this one off. I really wanted to get into the social media side of it because one, it holds me accountable to an awful lot of people, and then it's a good tool for me to be able to vent out feelings that I have, and also see other people if they have similar experiences, and that everybody does. The one thing that I've noticed about like going to meetings and AA meetings and things like that is that the things that I would have done while I was drinking aren't so unusual. Like they may be unusual to everybody around you at the time, but like
Yeah.
for people in those meetings, there's people standing there and you're like, oh my god, I can't believe that they did what I did, and I
Yeah.
used to do that. Now I used to do these things, and it's a really good kind of communal environment. And I would recommend. I had a post up last night about it, but I would recommend anybody going to try these things who would be thinking, "Oh God, no, it's not for me," or "What if somebody says something?" Or, it's nothing like that. And also, I know it kind of can be a tricky kind of thing to talk about because you shouldn't talk about like government or religion, but a thing that I know kind of has people put off is the religious aspect of AA. And people do talk about higher powers and God, and there's some prayer in it. They don't force that stuff on anybody. That's not a thing. They, like, at the end of meetings and things like that, they do mention we're going to say the Lord's Prayer and the Serenity Prayer for those of you who want to say it. You don't need to say it.
Okay.
And your higher power can be anything you want. The gym could be your higher power,
Yeah.
for instance. It's something to kind of keep you accountable and kind of keep you on the straight and narrow.
Yeah.
But people do get turned off by that because, there's a lot of different views nowadays, and people are more open about their, thoughts and discussions on that topic. But that's for a different podcast, I guess.
Yeah. Well, for anyone who's a little bit unsure of what you mean by a higher power, the higher power part comes into, and I might be wrong here, you can kind of correct me, but that's part of the 12-step program, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So it's kind of now I haven't run through the steps myself, so I'm kind of paraphrasing on this too.
Yeah.
But it would be kind of admitting that you're powerless to your addiction, and handing your will over to a higher power. Somebody, it's almost, in a sense, it's just, giving yourself over to somebody to protect you, to look after you, to mind you. Because anybody that would be giving up anything, or say, suffering from mental health issues like myself, having anxiety and depression, and, I know from reading your bio there as well, like we have similar things, and like we need to be taken care of. We don't need to be mollycoddled as babies per se, but we need to look after ourselves. And then, like, people need to, bear that in mind. Like, maybe not all the time, but just, what you can do around certain people, you mightn't be able to do around others. It's the same. Like, you might have the crack with your mates down the pub, but you wouldn't have the same jokes to your ma. It's like, it's just, you know what I mean? So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just going back to the 12-step thing. I was watching a video by Russell Brand the other day, and it was just coincidentally he just started talking about the 12-step program, but he explained it very simply. And if I find the link, I'll post it up on my social media. But I think from what I gathered, he was kind of taking out the whole religious part of it, and the way he explained it was very good. So I won't go through them all now because I can't even remember them. But I think the first one was
I've read his book. I have his book out there.
That's right. Yeah.
It's his versions of the 12 steps.
Right. Okay.
So he basically he takes out the kind of God aspect of it, because I believe, but it would be a realistic way of looking at things. Like, are you like suffering from your addictions or whatever it may be? But he puts it into words that, are you a little bit fucked? Do you know, that kind of way? Like, that's the way that he literally writes them out.
Yeah.
Like, so it's relatable to a lot of
people.
I
thought it was really good. I mean, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's just that I found see, what I'm trying to do with my page as well is talk about things in my view, like from somebody coming from my age group or whatever it may be, because there's a lot of people out there in AA and stuff like that, but their age groups may differ. So you could go to a meeting with a lot of people who are 20, 30 years into their journey, so their beginnings of their journey was a different time. You know what I mean? Like, there's a different world. And it's always the same. Like, in 10 years' time, my world is going to be different from somebody starting their journey in 10 years. But so I would have really liked what Russell Brand is doing there, is that, like, if I was to go and look for a book or a podcast or a social media page, I would have liked to have things to relate to.
Yeah.
Like, I can't relate to a book that may have been written 40 years ago, because the language is very different, and the social aspects of everybody's life is very, very different now. You know what I mean? So, like, because we are kind of in a bigger kind of going out party stage and stuff like that, whereas, it may have been different 40 years ago. So it's trying to balance, like, keep the core concepts of sobriety and stuff like that, but just add them to modern day, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. No, that's really, really good. I mean, I just, even the way you're phrasing it yourself, you can tell that you're trying to kind of adapt it to yourself. And I suppose that's like anything else. You kind of have to, not everything is, set in stone for everybody. Everyone has to adapt.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's
the
individuality of recovery and even mental health as well. Like, nobody is going to come with you. Like, you may have similar things in common, like we all do. Everybody has similar things in common, but it's going to be very different. They need to be handled differently, And I think it's kind of funny the way it kind of ties in with, say, the personal training and fitness part of it, because you can't just make one generic workout and diet plan for everybody. People are going to come to you with different goals and things like that. So, you need to have a vast knowledge. So, in the same sense of mental health, like, I can't be a mental health professional and have somebody come to me and I'm like, well, I only know about anxiety. I haven't got a clue about anything else. Like, but
Yeah.
so it's funny how the two of them kind of can tie in together.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm trying to marry the two concepts together and really kind of, because it's difficult, especially coming out of lockdown now. I stopped drinking when everything kind of started opening back up again.
Right.
So going back into going out to restaurants and pubs and stuff like that, meeting up in groups and parties and everything is very new for me as well. So I'm learning as I'm going to try and maybe, be able to bring that on to somebody who is only beginning their journey then as well. And they're like, well, I can't stop drinking because all my mates always, that's all they ever do. They only ever meet in the pubs or whatever.
Yeah.
There's ways to go to the pub. You don't need to drink. If there's a lot of things out there saying now that if you go to the pub and your mates are no good kind of thing, it's like, well, you kind of need better mates than you need the alcohol. Do you know what I mean? If that's all it is.
Totally.
And it's a scary thing for people as well, though, because sorry if I'm rambling on here.
No, it's very interesting. Go ahead. Yeah.
It's a scary thing for people because an awful lot of people tend to have drinking buddies more than they have mates.
Yeah.
Like when was the last time you were out to the gym or for a coffee or, went for a drive or something with said person? It's always just Tuesday night in the pub or something. Do you know what I mean? So they're not really mates. It's always just, drinking buddies. So they're afraid to lose what they'll lose. Their lifestyle is very orientated around the drinking, socializing aspect of it. But I think what's been great with the lockdown in a sense is that I see an awful lot of people out walking, discovering places that they haven't done before. They're doing loads of things outdoors, brand new things. Whereas on the weekends, they just would have been in the beer gardens, and I hope that kind of continues on and people will continue to do that kind of stuff. But, there is that fear of people falling back into things because what if, for instance, there's going to be people out there with sobriety that during the lockdown, they found it great because all their friends weren't in the pubs. Everything was brand new because their friends wanted to do things. They wanted to experience stuff. They wanted to go to the beach for the day. And then with things opening back up and people being vaccinated, are they going to start slowly losing that friend group again?
Yeah.
Back to the comfort levels, back to, well, why would I bother? Kind of want a few pints, or was out last night, it's time to go for a cure, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then the people in sobriety are, they're out for walks on their own or something. You know what I mean? So it can be difficult. But I'm speaking kind of in generalities and just kind of throwing it out.
Yeah. And what would your social circle be like? I mean, has it changed?
No, not so much. If anything, it's actually probably kind of gotten better. Because I was a barman before this, and my social would have been probably more after work and things like that. And then my drinking would have been primarily at home, and it would have been throughout. Like it was severe. Like I would have been drinking in the mornings, afternoons, evenings, everything. It went all the way through. It didn't matter what time it was for me.
Okay.
But so I want to go out now. I want to do things. There was a couple of years ago there where I was sober for a number of months as well. And it just so happened that there was a holiday booked and a wedding booked in that time frame. And they were two of the best things that I've ever done sober. Like I'd done loads of things on the holiday where I wouldn't have done anything. And because, as I said about my drinking before, there was no drop of the hat stuff. So if somebody came in to me and said, it's lovely out, do you want to go to X, Y, or Z? I would be immediately filled with anxiety because I would be thinking, I haven't drank enough yet. I'm still in that kind of awkward buzz from yesterday. Will I have enough time to get X and Y into me? I need to get ready. I don't feel that good. I need to eat something, but if I eat something, I'm going to be sick.
Yeah.
And, it would just ruin my whole day and ruin the other person's day as well. Like, as I said as well, there's, addiction doesn't just stick to the person who's suffering from it. It affects everybody around them.
Yeah.
Like, I get to enjoy the alcohol part of it, but I get to suffer as well. But everybody that doesn't get to enjoy the alcohol part of it, they just get to suffer.
Yeah.
And that's the truth. Like, so it's difficult.
And did you ever suffer from any mental health? I was going to say battles, but maybe mental health struggles before the alcohol, or was it from the alcohol?
No, it was before the alcohol, but I just basically, thinking back on it, I wouldn't have known properly what it was.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of way. And even now, it's kind of funny because even say waiting on anything like that, I would be nervous about, even kind of coming on here. I wouldn't necessarily nervous, but it's just waiting. And it's like, this is a normal nervous feeling. But it
Mm.
seems so alien to me because I was so closed off to my emotions for like 10 years, you know, through drinking and stuff like that. If I got any kind of, it would feel just like a slight nervousness, but to me, it was a massive anxiety thing. So I would drink to kind of suppress that and bring it down. So I'm trying to learn of what's normal and what's anxiety at the moment.
Yeah.
So there's kind of two different things. So I wasn't anxious about today, but I was nervous about today. Do you
Yeah.
know that
Yeah.
kind of way?
Yeah. I totally
Um,
understand. Yeah.
but no, my anxiety and stuff like that definitely started when I was younger. And kind of because I was so anxious, it stopped me from doing a lot of things, and which in turn kind of did, you know, add fuel to the fire for the depression and stuff like that as well. Because you know I was missing out on things, and I was wondering why and what's wrong, and
Yeah.
you know it was, yeah, it was a minefield. But basically, the drinking kind of then took over, and any slight anxiety or anything like that was just immediately tried to be killed off. You know, like, and then so the drinking just got worse. But the anxiety was basically caused from the drinking as well.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
that certainly didn't help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you drinking to avoid stuff, or was it more just because you wanted it? I mean, what I mean by that is maybe when you started drinking, what was it just because you enjoyed it, or were you actually trying to avoid maybe some stuff in your life?
No, see, some stuff did happen in my life, but I'd be lying if I said that that's what made me drink.
Okay.
Like thinking back on it properly, because I was already full blown alcoholic at this stage anyway.
Okay. Right.
But no, I wasn't avoiding. I did drink because I enjoyed it at the beginning, and I don't come from any kind of alcohol dependency background or anything like that. So I did,
Right.
as funny as it may sound, I did drink myself into being an alcoholic.
Yeah.
I know as well is from kind of popular culture and stuff like that as well that I drank a lot of because, or sorry, I know that came out funny. Um, but it was kind of things like things I was watching, or you know, the people I was following and stuff like that. I'd see them drinking, and I was very susceptible to it. You
Mm.
know, I see a lot because even now with like things like Love Island, for example, I don't watch it, but
Yeah.
I know that you know, the demographic for it is younger kind of people, and they have loads of ads for alcohol on during it
They.
because that's their
Yeah.
target audience for it.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? So it's kind
Yeah.
of just seeing that kind of stuff, and but that's the kind of thing that works for me. So I'd like watching things like Californication or something like that, and you know, the heavy drinker in that. Well, I used to love watching that while drinking whiskey as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, and that's kind of the way it started building for me. But then like the TV show didn't need to be on for me to have a drink.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then like it'd be any little excuse and I'd be drinking again, and it became very accepted
Right.
um in my circle that I would drink whenever. You know, it never because people can find it very difficult to kind of approach these things. You know, like how do we say something? Or, you know, it kind of gets laughed off in Irish culture sometimes as, oh, you know, he likes to drink. I don't mind if he likes to drink, that's grand.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, and
Yeah.
it, you know, but there is a fine line, and I find it very hard now as well because, you know, I've been trying not to be as judgmental, you know, because I think that was a trait I was slightly falling into, and I really didn't like myself for it. But I can't look at everybody who's having a drink and be like, oh, they might have a problem, or they
Mm.
might have a problem. That's not for me to say. You know, like I really can't do that kind of stuff. But I think it can be dangerous. Just people need to kind of watch how much they're consuming, and then if it's affecting their life negatively, what are the pros and cons to it? You know, because it can certainly go from being a fun, happy time to be a dependency pretty quickly. And you don't necessarily have to be drinking like I was. You don't have to be sipping out of Coke bottles with whiskey in them when you're walking around pennies. You don't have to be doing that to have a problem. You know,
Yeah.
but you can certainly have a problem by not being able to sleep at night. So you're having, say, one glass of wine. But this is, you know, a slippery slope, and you can very quickly become dependent on something like that.
Yeah.
Like it's no joke. Just because it's sold in the shop and it doesn't have any kind of warnings necessarily on it, doesn't mean it's safe. You
Yeah,
know.
that's very true. I never actually thought about it like that actually. Yeah, because you see the cigarette packets and they've got like the big huge, the warnings on them. But yeah,
There's huge cancer risks associated with alcohol, and I'm only finding this out now, and I won't talk about it because again, I don't want to be preaching at people. That's not what I want to be doing. And if you enjoy a drink, go ahead and enjoy a drink. That's fine. But I'm only finding out about these cancer risks now. Now, I didn't think it was healthy in the first place, but how come they're not marked like cigarettes?
mm,
I don't get it. There's millions of people associated with alcohol and cancer risks in the past year or so. So it doesn't make any
yeah.
sense to me.
I never thought about it like that actually. I wanted to ask you, when did you realize that you had a problem with it?
Many years ago, to be
Right.
honest. Yeah, it was a long, long, long time coming, and I've gotten so many last chances now with relationships and whatnot that yeah, this is really last man standing kind of stuff. Now I really had to get it under control and try and do it. And as I say, under control, it's a daily thing. It's one day at a time. But I can't look down the barrel of a lifetime of this. You know what I mean? Like that's
Yeah.
that's what scares people as well. But
Yeah.
sure, there's no point to me. I think Russell Brand actually mentions it in his book. There's no point in thinking about 20 years down the line when we literally have this very moment.
Yeah.
I can't do anything for 20 years from now.
Yeah.
You know. But no, certainly had a pretty heavy drinking problem going back probably about 10 years, 9, 10 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Putting up posts there that were coming up on my old Facebook feed. And I used to live with a friend of mine, and he was even thinking, this lad's going to die if he keeps drinking like this. I think it was like 6 to 7 bottles of Jack Daniels in a week or something.
A
So it
week. Right.
was,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah. And that's going back
Mm,
like 8, 9 years.
mm,
You know what I mean? So like time goes by so quickly that you're thinking, oh, it's not so much of a problem right now. I just can't continue on doing it. But like I'm 100 days into this now, and time doesn't wait for anybody. Like regardless of whether or not I stopped drinking or I was drinking, those 100 days would have passed. But I'm in such a better place now.
yeah.
Like my life is on like it's in the direction of absolutely changing everything for me. Like to do with the personal training and the mental health development. And even I want to further down the line go into recovery coaching. But I have to have 2 years sober myself to go into that, which
Mm,
makes sense.
yeah.
I don't want anybody quit for a week starting to, talk to you. But like I wouldn't have been doing any of that. I wouldn't have been on here. If somebody had told me on my first day that before you hit 100 days, you're going to have almost 2 courses completed and be on your first podcast talking about mental health and alcoholism.
Mm,
It's insane though. It's crazy. And it's
yeah.
all come from, say even that kind of the Instagram, something as simple as an Instagram page and
Yeah.
being able to talk about
Yeah.
these things open and honestly, because I think I certainly in the past would have thought, what gives me the right to be able to, talk like this or make a page or try and talk to people about anything. It's like you give yourself the right. Don't wait for anybody to,
Yeah.
tell you, oh yeah, it's okay for you to go and do this. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
No, you can go and take control yourself, take charge yourself.
Yeah.
Like and just get it done,
Well, I mean,
like yourself starting this podcast, it's
mm,
fantastic. Like the
yeah.
amount of people that now can listen and relate because mental health, unfortunately, sometimes is still thought about very caveman like, very like you should be in the no house. There's something wrong with you. Absolutely not. Get that backwards thinking away from me. Like, but we have to share it, like we were talking about there earlier on.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have to be the ones to share it and break the stigma. Like if stigma is a man-made concept and it has to take us to change it.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, it's especially in men, the stigma with men and mental health is quite bad's not the word, but it can be quite worrying that, I mean, and even the thing, and I don't know about you, and it's lovely to hear it and all, but so many people say, oh, you're so brave, and you're kind
Yeah,
of like, well, you know what I mean? And sometimes it's kind of like, and it's great to hear it and all, and don't get me wrong, but sometimes you're kind of like, I don't want to feel brave to do this because if other people feel they need to be brave to speak out, sometimes it can be a bit daunting for people. Do you know what I
absolutely.
mean?
Yeah. Oh,
But
100%. Yeah, I totally get what you're saying.
yeah, But even looking at your Instagram page, like you're, as you said earlier on, you're not preaching on it. You're just giving your story. You're telling your story, and that's kind of what I was doing. Like I kind of purposely stayed away from giving advice myself. I kind of would rather, or not rather, but I kind of stuck to just sharing my story and kind of showing people where you can kind of go from to where you can be without having
Yeah,
to offer advice. Because as you said earlier, everyone needs to kind of find their own,
yeah,
don't like using the
100%.
word journey, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. No,
Everyone
I'm
is,
the same, but
yeah,
it's the best word I can find for it.
yeah,
It's like,
exactly. Yeah.
you know,
But like everyone is different and like some things don't work for everybody. So I've kind of purposely stayed away from just kind of just offering advice and saying you should
yeah,
maybe do this and do that. I have found, and what so many other people have found by even writing blogs on my website, is by just sharing their story. It's so therapeutic
yeah,
for them, but can be quite helpful to other people just to be able
absolutely,
to
yeah,
relate.
100%. And like I was saying about the meetings, it's
Mm,
you think that you're the only person doing this. Everybody. Well, I'm again generalizing, but like for me, certainly, like in my mental health and my alcoholism, I was sitting in like my house and I was going, I have to be the only one doing this. Nobody
mm,
else is like me. Nobody's doing this. How can I say this to somebody without them thinking I'm mad? And so many people are sitting there thinking the exact same. So it's like, pages like yours talking about things and people writing blogs and, doing podcasts.
mm,
People could be sitting there. And like you said, it only takes one person. If one single person reads or listens to something and it resonates with them, fantastic.
yeah.
I was talking about this the other day about an awful lot of things can just be passing comments that stick with people.
Mm,
Unfortunately, it's negative passing comments most of the time that stick with people. Like there could be 10 people in a room that tell you you're fantastic, but it's one person that just go, you're all right. Yeah. That you're like, I've never forgotten that one. All right.
it's
Do you know
always
what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
It's always the same. And
yeah.
going back to not the side of not preaching on social media and things, it's a bit of a minefield. I don't know if you've kind of found that yourself when trying to write things or talk about things, because it's like I'm not being preachy. I really hope, but I'm just trying to get my point across. As in, like, please don't do this.
Right.
Like, as in,
Yeah,
like, I've done it, and I would beg you not to do it yourself.
yeah,
But without sounding preachy, it's can be difficult to try and get your
yeah.
point across.
Well, I suppose all you're doing there is you're just kind of offering them kind of maybe an olive branch. You're not necessarily telling them how they should not do it. You're just saying to them,
Yeah,
I would advise you maybe not to do it, but you're not telling them, how they
100%.
shouldn't
Yeah,
do it. Because as we said, everyone is different and everybody kind of finds their own way. And,
100%.
but listen, let's just slightly move on and
Yeah,
let's
100%.
talk about your this what you call it. I've completely gone asleep here. My brain has gone asleep with all of that. I was sitting there in just listening to you, and my brain has fallen asleep. Well done, Keith.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, but you want to get certified in personal training and be a fitness instructor. So has the exercise always been kind of important to you, or has that maybe something you kind of just discovered later on?
No, no, exercise has been pretty important to me. Only thinking back on it now as well, I think my brother, who passed away there a number of years ago now, unfortunately, he had muscular dystrophy. So that was like a degenerative kind of muscle disease. So he
Okay.
got continuously weaker over time. So I think that must have been a weird kind of background thing for me, that I always wanted to lift weights when I was younger.
Right.
I always wanted to be bigger and, get into the gym and be stronger and things like that, because I did used to lift him up and move him around or whatever way he wanted to be,
Yeah.
wherever he wanted to be. So, but I got into the gym probably pretty heavy when I was about maybe 16 or so. And then from 16 to say maybe 19, and then 20, I started kind of that journey into drinking and things like this. So
Yeah.
I did stay on the fitness side of it, but it didn't obviously get the gains. But from being, there's a lot of changes that go on between the age of being like a teenager to becoming an adult. So when you're 18, so it really was in my core kind of like mindset from a very early kind of
Mm.
what would shape you as a person kind of years, kind of way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Yeah, so I got really into kind of bodybuilding and stuff like that then, and now it's a focus thing as well.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
need to have. There's not a lot of sorry about that rambling there before, but I was saying it to somebody over the weekend that there's not an awful lot of things that people have anymore that they can do for an hour and it's fine. Like it's that separate to family life or
Mm,
friends or anything like that, and it's okay. So people need to respect that time in the gym and like they should get it for themselves because like if you were to turn around to anybody that you're with or family or whatever it is and just say, here, look, I'm popping off for an hour, but it's totally acceptable. There's very
mm,
few things in life that you can say like that now.
yeah.
Like, I mean, if you were to turn around and be like, here, look, I'm just going to jump on the Xbox for an hour, people are going to be like, stop that messing. Like, come on, we're doing this, that, or the other thing. So
Yeah,
people should really utilize the idea that the gym is there and like
yeah.
people respect it as a thing. And I don't know what it is, but it's fantastic that people do. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah. Well, look, I mean, this whole podcast and all that, my blog and all is kind of kind of more focused towards exercise and sport and how that kind of help your mental health. So I mean, just the fact that you're even doing that as well, I think is amazing. I mean, it really, really is. And I didn't say it earlier on, but I do want to say, I mean, I think you should be very proud of yourself for what you're doing. And I'm not just saying that. I genuinely mean that. Honest to God. And that's when my brain fell asleep a little while ago because I was sitting there thinking to myself, I was sitting here and I was listening to you and I just say, like, you should really, really be proud of yourself.
but
You really, really
there's one
should.
thing. Sorry, just while you're saying that, I really appreciate that. Thank you. But I will say that this isn't my first rodeo in
Mm,
this. For anybody that would be listening and thinking, um, like I put up a post about my 2 month chip and I wasn't feeling good the day I got it. And I
yeah,
didn't want to write a fake post about how happy I am and everything like that. Because if somebody was then reading that at 2 months and they didn't feel happy, they'd be thinking, well, what's wrong with me? What's
yeah,
this? So what's that? So if anybody's starting their journey out now and wants to do something similar to what I'm doing and finds there's an awful lot of hurdles to jump over and they're tripping up along their way and stuff. This is not the first time that this is the first time that I've attempted the personal training and the mental health
mm,
aspect of it. But it certainly isn't the first time I've stopped drinking, or I've wanted to change my life in a significant way. But they're all learning experiences. So if anybody has, like, as long as you can learn from something,
yeah,
it's not a failed attempt.
yeah,
As long as you can take things and use them as tools and kind of get back on, because it's a huge deal. Anybody taking notice of if there's something wrong or something negative in their life,
yeah,
it's a huge deal, and owning that as well. Like, so if you are doing that and you're failing, you're still doing something massive that some people will never be able to do.
yeah,
They'll never be able to get there. So just keep on going on. But I certainly don't want to put it out there like I'm just like, oh, I've only tried once and it's been so easy or this, that, and the other thing. So like, if anybody is out there thinking they're doing it and they are tripping up or whatever, just keep going.
yeah,
Just take those learning experiences.
yeah,
Yourself,
yeah,
like with
yeah,
things like what works and what doesn't work. Like if like with your own anxiety or anything like that. Like, I mean, I'm sure you've taken you know learning experiences from certain situations and triggers and things like that that you need to kind of avoid or whatever.
yeah.
And like that didn't come. You didn't learn all that in one day.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah,
But you just had to go through and had to build it up. So
yeah,
sorry if that
exactly.
makes any sense.
No, no, it's perfect sense because I was having this exact conversation on the podcast with Kathy um, on Wednesday, and what we were talking about was medication, but it was the same. Well, actually, we were talking about mindfulness as well, and it was exactly the same idea where, like, you could try some medication and that doesn't work, and then you can try another one that doesn't work, and it can be a little disheartening. But like
Oh,
as you
absolutely.
said, you just need to keep going because there is light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, and Kathy was saying like we tried certain medication and it didn't work. And
Yeah.
then I'm on one particular anti-anxiety medication now, and it's brilliant. And it keeps me going. It keeps me from kind of on an even keel. It kind of stops maybe my triggers from spiraling. Now you still have to deal with your triggers. It's not, and that's exactly what Kathy was saying the other day. It's a big difference in like it's not avoidance. Like
Mm.
you're not avoiding things. It's
Yeah.
just a tool to help you deal
Yeah.
with the triggers, to help you manage them a little bit better. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I'm only new to starting to actually take anti-anxiety medications.
Right.
So
Okay.
I was on ones previously, but
Right.
they were smaller doses, like smaller tablets of a bigger dose that I had to take. And I hate taking tablets anyway. So that completely put me off. Say a 40 ml tablet, and I had to take 4 10 ml tablets to get that into me.
Get you.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, like it. But it's working wonders for me right now.
Mm.
And a huge part of me relapsing back into alcohol every time was my anxiety. So I
Right.
would deal with things by drinking. Whereas now this medication has built up in my system, and it's a non what's the word for it? A non, you're not gonna get addicted to it. What's the
Yeah. Oh, I know what you mean. I can't think of the name. Yeah.
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 But so like non-habit forming. There you go.
Yeah.
So it's and that's brilliant for somebody in my position.
Mm.
So I would recommend as well that if anybody was to stop drinking alcohol or anything like that and they're worried about their anxieties, definitely go to the doctor and talk. There's nothing wrong with it. Nobody's
Of
going to
course.
judge or anything like that,
Exactly.
because that's been a huge game changer.
Yeah.
I certainly don't think I would be here without, having taken control of my mental health. There's been
Yeah.
a huge number of factors that
Yeah. Yeah.
take into account when you're talking about the bigger picture. Like,
Yeah.
but it's all, as I say, like on my Instagram, it's all building blocks.
Mm-hmm.
Have to use building blocks to kind of, you're not going to get it done in one fell swoop, but like, as little as even getting out of bed some days is a victory for people,
Yeah. Oh,
So be
tell me
good to
about it.
yourself
Yeah.
in that regard.
Yeah.
So,
And would you try, or have you tried mindfulness or anything like that?
not at the moment, but these are all things that, because I'm so early into my journey,
Yeah.
like the word journey, that it's all going to be things that I need to take step by step
Yeah.
and figure them out and put them in, because as me as a person, I think if I get too overwhelmed with everything at the same time, I'll
Yeah.
feel like I'm I'm doing a million things, but I'm not doing them well. It's not
Okay.
getting they're not getting they're not getting the time they deserve. And how can I judge or say that something is or isn't working if I'm not giving it the time?
Yeah.
Things like meditation, mindfulness, and stuff like that, they deserve your time.
Mm.
And that's how they'll end up working for you. It's much like everything,
Yeah.
like the gym will work for you and fitness will work for you if you give it the time. It's not going to work if you're in there for 10 minutes and then you bounce out to get pizza. It's not going to, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's not going to work like that.
Yeah.
Like these things, like if you're going to do them, like do them for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like when, like brass tacks with stuff, like if you seen a friend of yours beating themselves up like you beat yourself up, you would stand in and you'd be like, here, you need to be proud with yourself, despite the fact that you're not saying it to you.
Yeah.
And it's the same with everything. If I seen somebody drinking like I was drinking, I'd be like, whoa, hang on. Even though
Yeah.
I'd be drinking like that myself, I don't want to see other people doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. I
You know
had
what I
that.
mean?
I had that
Like you can
conversation on
kind
one
of
of the.
you're being a hypocrite, but
Yeah.
like,
No, that's exactly. No, I was just going to say I had that conversation on one of the earlier podcasts we did where we kind of did an exercise where we were saying, would you talk to one of your friends the way you talk to yourself? Of course you wouldn't. You wouldn't.
no,
You're so difficult.
I certainly
You're
wouldn't be
so
your
hard on
friend
yourself.
anymore.
Yeah, exactly. But
You
that's it.
know,
But you talk to yourself with these negative thoughts and you beat yourself up and you give out yourself. But you would never, well, not never, but you would probably not say most of those things to a friend.
100%.
Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
absolutely.
you'd be a bit
Yeah,
more cautious, or you might be a bit more. You might be a bit more kind of you a bit more careful with your words. Where the
yeah.
stuff that you say to yourself is just ridiculous. You
It can
know
be
what I mean?
horrendous. Yeah, it
It
can be
can be,
really,
yeah,
really bad. Like, yeah.
yeah. I
No,
mean, like,
you wouldn't do it, and you wouldn't like to see anybody treated like that at
of
all.
course you wouldn't.
But
Yeah,
so, but we do it to ourselves, and it's all right for some
yeah,
reason. And
yeah, yeah. And come here,
after like,
I want to ask you another question, and we wrap this up fairly soon because we've been here a
yeah,
while.
cool.
Um, do you use anything? I mean, for an escapism. So, like, I know you've got loads going on at the moment that you're trying to deal with, but would you use anything as escapism now,
Now
apart
at
from the
the
gym?
moment, yeah, it would have been really just the gym at the moment, but I'm an artist as well, so I'm trying to break associations. So
Right.
I used to drink every time I was drawn. So I'm trying to break the
Right.
association with that because I would
Okay.
still tend to crave or miss something.
Yeah.
So it feels like I'm missing. So it's like leaving your house without your phone. You feel like you're missing something, that kind of way.
Yeah.
So I used to use that as an escape in
Right.
some
Okay.
sense because it was similar to the gym for me. It was my time to do that, and people would respect that. So I need to use stuff like that. I am trying to read more as well,
Okay.
and
Right.
even things like podcasts as well, stuff like that. I can get lost in and
Yeah.
take some, you know.
Yeah.
I'm really trying to utilize my time a lot better as well. Like even if I'm out for a walk, which I enjoy doing, like enjoy getting down by the estuary there and walking and stuff. But to try and learn as I'm going as well, take
Yeah.
things because that's how the best way for me to take in knowledge anyway is either the experience of doing it or listening to actual experience of somebody doing it, not just necessarily reading a book written down. This is how you do it.
Yeah.
So escapism would be things like podcasts and things like that. Just
Yeah.
to keep learning, and I could listen to this podcast or a number of your other ones which I have, and I can talk back to those podcasts almost. I can
Yeah.
relate. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? You can
Yeah.
but that's just me, and it might sound mad, but but I can be like, oh yeah, 100%, or go off on a little tangent myself.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's kind of therapeutic in a way as well
Yeah.
because
They can. Yeah.
much like journaling or anything like that, you're getting it out.
Yeah.
It's like a weight off your chest. You're speaking.
Yeah.
You may only be speaking to the walls or the bleeding cat or something, but you're still getting it out.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. Exactly. 1 second. Girls, I'm doing a podcast. Go away. She's not here. I'll be with you in a minute. I don't know. I'll be with you in a minute. Typical, isn't it? Hang on. Back in a second.
Yeah, no worries.
She's going to bring her. I'll be with you 5 minutes. I'm doing a podcast. Go on downstairs. Be with you in a minute. Right, the blue flame makers. Back in a few minutes.
Yeah, back.
Oh, the joys.
Oh yes,
The
that's
joys of 3 small kids. I'm working from home.
Yeah, yep. Sure, look, at least you get the time like that. It's all right. See, you've got the podcast, and you can say, "I'm doing my podcast. Leave me alone."
Doesn't work, does it? Doesn't work.
Yeah, no.
Well, certainly doesn't work.
Not, no.
But the mommy's not down there. I don't know where she's gone. I think she's brought the other one to a camp or something.
Yeah, she escaped. Well, she could.
Jesus, right. Where were we? Right, I can edit all that bit out. Oh yeah, we were just gonna say goodbye, weren't we? Right. Compose yourself. Right, guys, we'll wrap that up very soon because we've been here quite a while. I want to thank Adrian very much for coming on the podcast today because I know that's quite difficult to go through all of that. And I have to say, I think he was a little bit nervous about coming on, but he was absolutely brilliant on the podcast. I couldn't shut you up. You were brilliant.
No, yeah, that's why I ran long. Sorry, I could probably go on for another couple of days.
Yeah, she'll listen to this back and probably have another conversation with it anyway.
I will, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, exactly. Well, as we mentioned earlier on in the podcast, your Instagram page, do you want to give everyone kind of a little update of where they can get in touch with you, or maybe not get in touch with you, but where they can follow you?
Yeah, so you can follow me on Instagram. So it's from Jack to Jacked, and it's the number 2 there as well. So yeah, that's basically just my my Instagram rather for just my story and just how I'm getting on with my journey and going into the mental health and physical aspect of things. So
yeah,
thanks very much.
Brilliant. I actually highly recommend you going and checking out that Instagram page because that's where I kind of came across you, Adrian. As soon as I saw your videos, I was like, that's absolutely amazing. It's brilliant. So fair play to you. And thanks very much for coming on as well. And good luck with everything you're doing in the future. Right, guys, we'll wrap that up. That's series 2 done. Like I said, we'll be back soon with series 3. So keep an eye out for everything. And I'll talk to you all again very soon. Bye for now.